I'll give you 5 minutes. If you go through that, it says that we have seen from the beginning of the murder investigation the case is strongly against James McCarthy. He is arrested and charged for the murder, and Holmes is confident that he will be able to clear him. So he says that I think that I see my way to clearing James McCarthy. Yeah. So now the next extracts which I have marked for you. Basically, the main conclusion which we are going to arrive at is the murdered man had an appointment with someone at the pool, and that the someone could not have been his son. So here the thing is that, he couldn't prove him innocent by any other way because all the evidences were going against him. So he had to choose another way of proving that he's innocent. He wanted to say that he was not the one who was there for the appointment. And if you remember, there was one sentence where it says the main fact of the thing is that after the appointment, this man never came back alive. So it was something which happened at the appointment time, and the person who he was supposed to meet, that must be the murderer. So if you prove that M is not that person who was about to meet his father, then you can actually somehow say that he's not the murderer. So here that is the main conclusion. So let's try, we've already done this, let's try to come up to this conclusion from the given grounds. So quickly mark your given grounds. Try to build a conclusion like we were doing last time. Premises, steps of reasoning, explicitly stating all the assumptions. Try to build. I'm giving you 5 minutes, then we will do it together. So start, 5 minutes. You can start discussing also. You consider these 4, but if you get any new piece of ground somewhere else which is relevant to this conclusion, it's fine. Okay, I think all 4. Sorry, yeah, all. So that was a mistyping. It is all 4. That is just to help you. Basically, we're going to focus on the narrative given by James McCarthy, but there are a few other evidences here and there, some sentences which might help.
What do we come up with the conclusion about it?
You can use a pen or a pencil to mark. It will be easier because it's actually hiding in those 4 places. Yes, the conclusion is that the man who was supposed to be where this man had an appointment with could not have been his son. That's the conclusion. Begin with the grounds. And in fact, the most of the grounds is in that paragraph where James McCarthy is given his own account. So that is the main thing. If you can read that sentence by sentence, that would help. Can discuss. faster.
Very
Yeah, mark that. That is not not surprised. 5 minutes is over. Let's start discussing together, and I'm sure you have already got it. Just have to put it together. Basically, this is our. You need few more seconds? Okay, few more seconds.
The appointment results maybe an appointment somebody else whom he was not talking.
Okay, let us begin together. Then whatever gaps we have, we can fill. Okay, I think now discussion is over. We will do a collective discussion. Basically, what we want to do is we have to conclude that man with whom the victim, I would say the deceased, has appointment with was not his son. So basically, we have to prove that James is innocent. So if Q is James is innocent, we have to prove that Q is true. From these grounds, we have to prove that. Can you begin? What do we need? Because I've been hearing some sentences which you picked up to find some contradiction. So Vignesh, can you start?
One is the father was surprised to see the son.
Okay,
That's
so
what-
why do you think that is something puzzling?
If anyone had an appointment with somebody, obviously it won't be a surprise.
Okay, so anything else? Okay, very good. Anything
He's
else?
following that there is a signal which is being said, and then the son is thinking that the signal perhaps is for him. But then, since he therefore presents himself, but therefore that surprise is shown.
Okay, so why is the son thinking that the signal is for him?
Because there was a usual sign between.
So that's a
those two
usual communication signal. Alright, so what is it we have to first, when we have to solve this case, it's not about solve, so when we have to connect the grounds to the conclusion, what do we need here? Why is Vignesh saying that? Are you all agreeing with Vignesh that if somebody has appointment with somebody, like I have appointment with Minambika, but when I see Minambika I get surprised, why are you here? So is that natural? That's not normal.
Because you were expecting
There is some assumption.
Appointment, you expect to see someone at a given place and
So there is an assumption. Any other assumptions when we have appointment? Let's call it a theory of appointment, and let's try to generalize what are those assumptions we have implicit in an appointment. Appointment means, what do we do in an appointment? How do we make an appointment? Neha?
You book a time and you
Book a time.
be present at that time.
You can't book
And-
a time with someone whom you know is not there.
Exactly.
And he
So
was
the
for
pers-
3 days, this boy was not.
Okay, so you book a time. What else do we book?
Place.
Place. So let's make a theory of appointment, and let's call it a theory of appointment, which exists, we all know it. It's not that your theory of appointment is very different from what I think. So that's why I'm calling it theory. The first one, what Neha said, if X, I'm not writing that, if X has appointment with Y, then X expects to see Y. What else?
At a particular place. At a particular
Okay,
time.
I'm thinking that let's write it that X has made an appointment with Y at a pre-decided time and place. Let's say that's the first sentence. X has made an appointment with Y at a pre-decided time and place. Now, what are the propositions? X expects to see Y, and we talked about a signal.
If you have an appointment, I don't think you need a signal to be to make your.
Suppose I have an appointment with you, Shalini. I go there and you have not reached. What do I do?
Call out.
That is a common signal. I have your number. Before we meet, we definitely make sure I have your number, you have my number, so that we inform. So that is a common signal. In this case, it was CUI. Mobiles were not there; they had to use CUI. But anything else?
Also maybe because it was an appointment of like which they did not want the rest of the world to be aware of.
Okay.
Like a hidden.
But that is in this particular case.
Yeah.
Let's make a theory. Theory for all of us. Even it's today in this 21st century also, theory should work. So X expects to see Y. X, let's say there is a communication signal, can communicate, but that's optional, communicates with Y in cases of, let's say, uncertainty or some ambiguity. For example, if I reach first, I give a call, or maybe we fix the time and not the place, or maybe we fix the time that we are at ISAR, but where in ISAR we don't know. So where are you waiting? At which gate? So in those cases, we might need an option signal which is common to both. Anything else? So maybe a consequence of this is that obviously X will not be surprised to see Y. So I don't think so. We have to lay that out. It's only X expects. Somebody say something about returning. The time. Rashmi can't say that you expect the person to be available that time. So you know that the person is not in town. You will still make an appointment and go and stand there. That
You
is
can't.
definitely not possible. It's improbable. So X is aware that Y is available to meet at that time at that point. Let's say these three propositions are a theory of appointment, right? Based on this, once again go to the grounds of McCarthy and see what are the things which we will not allow to happen. Based on this theory, based on the grounds now, what are the things which is mismatching by which we can prove that Q is true?
1 and 2 mismatch. 1 and 3.
1 and 3 mismatch, what is it? Can you spell it out?
Since the McCarthy Senior was surprised to see McCarthy Junior, so that is contradictory to 1.
That is 1. So there is a logical contradiction between that ground where McCarthy Senior was surprised to see McCarthy Junior, because if he had an appointment, he cannot be surprised and ask, what are you doing here? That's 1. Any other logical contradictions?
Then 3 as X is aware that Y is available and he was not aware. Since, Senior McCarthy had already left, and then the Junior McCarthy arrives. He was out.
Right. So what is that ground which is helping us to find that contradiction? You say that. Mention that.
Junior McCarthy was not there in the town when.
Not there in the town, and one more.
When he was going to come back.
Senior McCarthy didn't know when he came back.
He did not know. So what did he do?
He was surprised to see him.
He was surprised. There is another ground.
Is there a reason for senior?
CUI, yes, the CUI is the ground. It's basically the CUI which he did knowing that his son is not there, so that CUI was not for his son. It was somebody else. So this is like a direct way of understanding that there is a logical contradiction. If I know my son is not here, but still I am calling a CUI to attract my son there, obviously that's not possible. So there are two logical contradictions. So now can we say Q is true? Can we say Q is true?
Can we also take a ground that senior and junior had to meet, they didn't have to meet there?
Exactly. You know,
Okay,
two
yeah.
people living in
This
the
is what
same
you have
house,
to bring
why
out
would they-
more, let's say, other grounds. Senior, junior had to meet. So, senior had to meet junior.
No.
If senior has
If
to meet
junior,
Okay,
they didn't have to
okay.
meet in the
since
pool.
they live in the same house,
Okay.
why would they meet
And there's
at a
no
distance
Because
place?
they had to quarrel maybe.
No, but
I thought they had to quarrel, they didn't want to quarrel in front of the servants. So they went there in the pool in the woods, open area, and they quarreled. But yeah, that's a
the
good
son did
point.
not know where he has gone because he says he has gone with the groom, but she did not tell कि वो कहाँ जा रहा है.
Okay. अब कुछ और करते हैं interesting. Very good. But interesting चीज़ ये है आप sun की account पढ़ो. If you actually read the account of the sun, our task says, separate the fact and the interpretation. Separate the subjective perception and the actual observation. This is a very important thing in historical inquiry, as well as here we are doing that. So separate that. Use two colored, maybe a pencil, pen, colored, whatever you have. Just read that paragraph, each line of James McCarthy, take 3 minutes and separate it out. What are the observations actually which can be corroborated by other? If you hear something, somebody might have also heard that. If you see something, somebody might have also, there were eyewitnesses also. People saw him going that direction, right? So go to the observation, and what is he stating which is not observation, it's just a perception. I'll give you a simple example to understand the difference which Mo always uses, especially because this room I find it very cold. And if I say the room is cold, Mo will say that's not the attribute of the room. You are feeling cold in this room. You cannot say the room is cold. So that's your subjective perception, because I feel the room is perfectly okay and I feel it's warm. So you cannot corroborate somebody's subjective perception because only I have information, access to that information. So find that out. Just separate that out quickly. 2 minutes.
3B, right?
3 is done.
We're adding 3B, right?
Yeah.
We are at 3B now. We are doing 3B. We'll come back to 3A and see whether we can prove it in a different way.
She appeared much surprised.
So is it?
That is a subjective.
He did not know when he would senior did not know when he would maybe he had told him that I will be returning
On
on
the other hand,
Could be. So just separate. What you feel, just let's first separate the premises into real observations using our sense perception and interpretation, our internal mental state.
So the first one is something that somebody else can also vouch for.
Yes, exactly.
This is only my account.
My account. If I am saying, like for example, I'll give you one example, one page from the same account. He said, I had no idea where my father was going. Can you corroborate that whether you have idea or you don't have idea? If I say, I had no idea that there was a session, can you really corroborate that I had idea or not? Because it's my perception, I'm talking about what ideas I have or I don't have. So that is a subjective perception. That particular thing is actually not even allowed in court. In the court, when you actually give, the witness gives his account, it's supposed to be, they do say that you have to separate that. What is corroborated, it's possible to be corroborated, that's your observation. And the others are not. So anyway, here in the story, both are there. So quickly separate them. Then we can have a discussion and we'll see how we can prove this.
Perception. Smiling and violent.
We are doing this to understand what you are saying that we are. Separate each sentence into real observation.
So the subjective perception is
He was
If I say I have no idea, it is corporate because he knew that is also something he knew what night of
why he
hearing the
Give the father
even if it is 1887 British, I don't know what time they call it. At least not 30 after.
His father went around this person
When you are doing critical reading, that's why you are asking this question. If you read it just like that, like the story of Hoja.
I don't know what I'm putting in.
Tough, no?
Okay, let's go sentence by sentence. No, you listen to this story. We will go sentence by sentence. You correct me if I am wrong, because now we are going to separate this account into observation and subjective perception. So you have to tell me. Mr. James McCarthy, the only son of the deceased, was then called and gave evidence as follows. It begins now. I had been away from home for 3 days at Bristol. Can that be corroborated? Yes. That can be a ground. I only just returned upon the morning of last Monday 3rd. Okay. My father was absent from home at the time of my arrival. Ground. I was informed by the maid that he had driven over to Ross with John Cobb, the groom. Shortly after my return, I heard the wheels of his trap in the yard. This is
intro because
and lying out of the window,
somebody else must have also heard.
We can't corroborate it. I mean, there's no evidence that somebody else.
We never know. Maybe John Cobb was there. He also knows, and you know. See, there is a possibility of corroboration. Means I have not done that interrogation, but it is possible because if it's a sound, definitely somebody there must have heard the sound.
I don't agree with that because in all other cases there is a definite ground for me to say it can be corroborated.
Okay. So this
it's
is
one more level of making it.
Because here he was informed by the maid. So if I want to corroborate, I just have to ask the maid, did you say this to him, and then it can be corroborated. Whereas over here, there may have been nobody else.
Could be shortly.
There are times when they say
or
I
the
haven't
wheels
done shots,
of
but his trap would be an
you know, see, if I am standing in an open space and only I am hearing something that I don't know.
I think the issue here is if we assume that what is said here is acceptable,
that we are going to assume
then
finally.
how do we arrive at the conclusions? Of course, there might be problems in accepting this, but if you accept these are the premises, how do you draw the conclusions is what?
No, right now we are separating observation and subjective perception.
Right.
So,
and
is
then arrive at the conclusion.
Yeah, now this one, shortly after my return, I heard the wheels of the sound of the wheels. Is that observation or subjective perception?
Hearing is
observation.
It's not clear. No, he's reporting his
it's not clear. So it's still perception.
Yeah. So that he heard it doesn't mean that there was
sound of the
he may have
wheels.
heard taped.
Okay, so hearing is, in this case, it's going to be perception.
So we don't have to believe that he may have told a lie here.
No, at this point we are assuming that he speaks the truth.
In fact, that is the explicit assumption of Holmes that whatever he's saying is truth. Though we find there are a lot of subjective perceptions in his account, which cannot be corroborated, but still we are assuming the entire thing which he said is true. And that is why finally we are going to conclude it. Yeah, but then let us separate the fact and interpretation. Let's continue.
But what Rashmikant says is absolutely valid in the sense like for historical inquiry, that's an important question to ask.
Yes.
Even here.
Yeah.
So they interrogate the witness to check if the witness is a liar or not.
Yeah. Looking out of my window, I saw him get out and walk rapidly out of the yard. This part? Observation?
Yes, it is observation.
Observation? Okay.
But if you hold the earlier one is subjective, this also becomes subjective.
This is what even that sharp line even I want to understand. Because that sharp line where if I see and I hear, whether that is could be subjective perception, sometimes it could be a ground.
think there is a possibility that someone else may have heard and seen.
Like you may
And
go
if
back
there
and
is
ask
someone,
somebody,
then
then
it is
Now, if we
corroborated.
interrogate somebody
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
then it's a possibility to
Did he
corroborate
come
that.
back?
So this
That's why
that
I was
will
saying we further divide it into
Yes.
subjective, and that can be observed
possible or
cannot
not.
be.
Yes.
Or
Though
valid.
I was not aware in which direction
This
this
is
is
subjective.
This is subjective perception. I then took my gun and strolled out in the direction of the Boscombe pool. This is something he did, and there were 2 eyewitnesses there. So this is something, yeah. With the intention of visiting the rabbit warren. Now what intention, what idea, what awareness, these are all subjective perceptions. On my way I saw William Crowder, that sentence, object. That's observation, because it's being actually evidence was also given by the eyewitness. I had no idea that my father was in front of me. Subjective. When about 100 yards from the pool, I heard a cry of cooey, which was a usual signal between my father and myself. I then hurried forward and found him.
This is an observation.
It is an observation because I actually heard and I acted upon it.
But
He,
in
but
the
then
usual part.
Usual signal between my father.
Usual signal.
Only known to him and the senior McCarthy.
Yes, that's what he thought.
Yeah.
He thought that that's a communication signal used, that's why he took that
So
action.
then,
And it happens to be
Australians
that it
generally
wasn't meant
do-
for him.
Now, Australians generally do that, that's what, later we
Yeah,
found
yeah,
out.
yeah.
If you're not aware of that, then the son feels that it's only between him and his
No,
father.
that means, it's usual, not unique.
It's a usual one, not unique, but the son perceived it as unique. That's why the son acted like
So
that.
he can call out Kui to some other person, even if he's from Australia. Because if it is unique between father and son,
So
how
this,
can
maybe the son was not aware that it was also used for other things. So here the son is giving the account. I am giving the account. If I'm so used to that my father is calling me in that particular way, I may not even realize that my father is also calling other people in that particular way.
Son was never
So that's a son's perception.
So he did not know that he has written.
Father is not aware he's written.
Yeah.
So we are going. I had no idea that he is in front of. Oh, we had done that. He appeared to be much surprised at seeing me. Appeared to have been much surprised. Though this is a very important for our logical contradiction, but it is still a subjective perception. Asked me rather roughly what I was doing there. Could be right or wrong, because there was a
That girl saw them.
14-year-old girl who was there, could have overheard. A conversation ensued. Even that conversation, the quarrel could be corroborated because there was a third eyewitness there. Seeing that his passion was becoming ungovernable.
This is subjective.
Subjective. That is subjective. I left him and returned towards. Now from here to, I think, I saw no one near my father when I returned. Till then,
I have a
yes.
different response. So my father was a man of very violent temper. This is a subjective perception.
Yes.
Whereas seeing that his passion was becoming ungovernable, it's observation.
Observation, but it's my, you see, if I can only perceive somebody is getting angry, I can say, oh, this person is now getting angry, let me go away. That's my perception.
Isn't that observation?
I'm observing, and because I'm observing some traits, I am, concluding in a way that is my subjective perception. Another person who is very straight may think, okay, fine, no problem, get angry. Another subject can completely be very different from what you are reacting to.
In fact, that very
How much is
account,
uncontrollable is subjective. And how much is
Yes, one by one, let's just discuss all of
that
this.
very account actually is subjective, because the girl thought that the son was being aggressive with the father.
Yes.
Whereas the son is saying now the father was being aggressive with him.
So this entire thing is subjective because another girl who is watching is thinking something else. So that is actually an interpretation. So we basically what we want to do is, again, not going into the story, what we want to take out from the story is when we give an account, or when we actually give an account, we do not sometimes realize the difference between the two, but both the things have completely different weightage. They use actual grounds and the interpretation. So that is something which we wanted to do a little back. Let's come back and prove this. We cannot prove it directly, but we have already done it. What we have done, we made a theory of appointment, which is, we have actually laid out a theory of appointment which is true for everyone, we're assuming. And then what we have tried to do is, because we do not have any evidence to prove Q is true, there's another way of proving. What we do is we prove that Q is not true, is
false.
This is another way of proving called proof by contradiction, which is used by mathematicians a lot. So this is something which we do in the detective novels as well. When you can't do this way, then you can do this way. Q is not true is false. Now maybe we can just lay out these things, since we have this theory, and then we can say that there were some logical contradictions which you already mentioned, that proposition, that, so and so, they do not match. If the father did not know that he was there, then obviously he will not call him by that signal. And there was one more thing. So the logical contradictions obviously is bad. So therefore we can prove that if Q is not true, is false, then there is only one option. What is that option?
Then Q is true.
Then Q is true. Because there can be only two options, that James can be innocent or James can be murderer. So this is one reasoning adopted by Sherlock Holmes here. But there was a very big assumption, explicit assumption, which was all whatever he's saying has to be true. And though we are continuously questioning the discrepancies what we find, that is because he had assumed that. And assumption need not be rationally justified, at least in this case. Okay. So now we are moving on to something else. Relevance. Coming back to relevance, where do we use these modes of reasoning? So we're going to do learning task 4, where there are some set of questions. We've actually gone through some different kinds of modes of reasoning from morning. We talked about deductive reasoning, talked about inductive reasoning, abductive reasoning, little bit of speculative deductive reasoning also, which we will do later. Let us see where all we can actually, whether we can identify the modes of reasoning, whether we can actually reflect on some similarities and differences between historical, scientific inquiry, mathematical, scientific inquiry. So let's do learning task 4. I'm giving you 3 minutes to go through all the questions, but you can discuss. So just write what you feel. Then we will discuss. Yes, and if you need to ask. I think Neha has raised a very interesting thing. Mo, please listen to Neha's version. Neha, I'm giving the mic to her. She has got a third option, which you were talking to me in the morning. So just see how.
Yeah. So I'm saying one option is that Q is true. That means, so one is that James is not the murderer. 2 is James is the murderer. Third could be that he is an accomplice to the murder. He did not go there to murder the person, but he knew that his father has an appointment with someone who may be killing him or has intentions of murdering, and he went there to assist. Or so then what? I mean, then what path do we take of the theory or the contradiction? Or
so this extension can go on. He took the gun in order to kill the murderer. He took the gun to kill his father. You know, it's never ending. So we have to base it on what we have as fact.
So we have to settle down with the best possible explanation as of now in this particular case, because we are actually not generalizing anything from here. This is just a particular case. Case over, finish.
So,
right? So
what is the proposition being examined? One proposition is James is innocent, and the second is James is not innocent.
Either guilty
so
or
not innocent. We can't say.
If it is not innocent, it could be that he is not innocent because he is murdered, or he arranged the murder, or he assisted. In all these cases, he would be guilty. So why don't we just say innocent versus not innocent, and then once, if you know that he is not innocent, then you can explore. Yeah, but the difficulty is that to establish innocence, you have to rule out the other possibilities that you are talking about. So for simplification, it may be just innocent versus murderer.
Because here also we took, okay, that he did not have an appointment with his father. How does that necessarily equate with he is innocent?
Yeah, you have to say he is not innocent. Sorry, he is innocent. Can be interpreted as he is not the murderer. For simplicity's sake.
No, I'm saying that
yes, for simplicity's sake. But if you say that the person who was to be met is not the murderer, that is not something true. It could be that appointment was with somebody else, but the murderer is still
the son.
Maybe
he reached there and had a fight.
Exactly. So that is just taking us towards a more complicated way of thinking. But here, since we want to extract just a simple way, modes of reasoning, we focused on that. And as Vedish is saying that if you go on and on, there are many things to critically bring in. But what you have already been doing is critical reasoning. You are particularly evaluating everything, every step and every move they are taking, which is what we wanted you to do, and you all are doing it. But yes, there is no possible answer to each and everything because the case is solved now. We can't really do anything else. Yes, what we were, if we start going through the questions.
And in real life, there are so many cases.
Salman Khan.
In fact, when you read a news story, especially a murder story in the newspaper, and if you're following that story, this is actually what we do. Every day something comes as a new evidence. If you're actually following up that story, we keep on building, and we are using all these modes of reasoning at the same time. Okay, I think we can start discussing this, and this is mostly like you will be coming up with your reflections, so I'm not going to speak.
When you say modes of reasoning, it's
Deductive, inductive, abductive.
not mathematical, historical.
When we say modes of inquiry, we mean scientific, mathematical, historical inquiry. That's a modes of inquiry. When we say modes of reasoning, we talk about inductive, deductive, abductive. Yeah. Reflect on the following. In what ways are the modes of reasoning adopted in the murder investigation similar to that in historical inquiry? You reflect. It's better that if you have gleaned a little bit of what we were trying to do, it's better that you speak. Yes.
I was just thinking, what are the characteristics of a historical inquiry?
You have to just think what a historian must be doing, because historical inquiry is Vagesh's area. I can't even go into that area.
Investigation of the past. Which has
Investigation
happened
of
and
the
then,
past. Okay, so is there any similarity between this modern investigation and
the basis of the present?
Exactly.
Basis of the present?
He actually assumes that he is innocent, and then based on that theory he is constructing
Just a minute. Shh. A little bit of discipline here. Somebody is talking. It's a collective discipline. Let's do that. Otherwise, what you are saying is also very interesting, which we want to hear. Please save that for a collective discussion. Vignesh, please, sir.
So he's actually making a first theory that he is innocent, and for that theory he is constructing the, he is gathering the evidences and making an interpretation. So I think it's an abductive reasoning.
Yeah, lot of it is abductive reasoning, which what we were doing. But here we are reflecting on another thing. What we are trying to do, we are trying to connect this murder investigation to historical inquiry.
And in historical inquiry as well, I think we make kind of assumption that okay, this is what could have been there, and then for that theory we look and see if we can fit the observations and see if that interpretation, fits into the whole.
Fits into that. Okay. So basically, here again, past and present. In this case, the murder happened in the past, 4-5 days ago, and what clues were remaining is in the present. So from these clues of the present, actually some investigation of the past was happening. So that is a basic similarity between historical inquiry in a broad way. Let's go to the next one.
No, but there is. I think
Sorry,
there is one
please.
more.
Yeah, please.
Because in historical inquiry also we'll have to, classify our sources. Which of them are definitely, which of them can be verified and which are supposed to be the perception of whatever author who has written those sources. So that is, I think,
Very important. Very important. Two very crucial points. A paleontologist studies fossils using them to arrive at and establish conclusions about life on Earth in the past. In what ways is the mode of inquiry in a modern investigation similar to the mode of inquiry adopted in paleontology? This was purposely given so that even for children, those who want to take up some things in future. See, archaeology, paleontology, all these things have some similarity in the mode of reasoning, though their domains are very different. So what is that similarity? Somebody say, I don't want to say, yes, Nisa.
For starters, I would say both the cases have tangible evidences. So that is our starting point, and from there we establish some grounds and we make some implicit and explicit conclusions, assumptions.
Yeah, so fossils are evidences
tangible
here,
evidences,
grounds
yes.
here, from which we are actually constructing or reconstructing the past about life on Earth. So that's again similar to what historical inquiry should be like. Think of a doctor. When we go to a doctor looks at our symptoms. And a lot of subjective perceptions here, because we say how we feel, and he has to differentiate between how we feel and what has actually happened. So a lot of historical inquiry doctor has to do, and a scientific inquiry. Think of a doctor diagnosing the medical conditions from the symptoms of a patient. What kind of reasoning is he applying?
Speculate.
Symptoms, He's speculating, but you have learned those. I'm not going to speculate in deductive reasoning for the time being because it's actually huge. It's about completely establishing a theory and defending a theory. So that is slightly more a bigger thing. Let's think about these three. Which one do you think? But which type of reasoning? Deductive, inductive, abductive? Abductive? Possibilities and the He's seeing the effect. Right, it's the cause effect where possible causes and then best possible cause. So the treatment for the best possible cause. Yeah. So abductive reasoning. And in what ways is the reasoning similar or different from the ones which we have just now discovered? It's abductive reasoning Holmes was using in the murder investigation. Doctor does it in everyday life. Yes. Identify the modes of reasoning in each of the following cases now. Let's do that. So either it's inductive or deductive or abductive. It could be speculative deductive, but very few examples you'll find like that. At constant temperature for a given mass of gas, given the initial and final pressures and the initial volume, and the formula of Boyle's law, you can easily find the final volume of the gas. So these kind of numericals we are doing every day in our classrooms. We are coming back, basically taking your question, relevance to education, coming back to school, textbooks, what we do, and how will this help. There is a kind of reasoning we are using, and we are never even explicit about that. We are going to the math class, we are doing physics numericals, we are always using this. What kind of reasoning is this? Very certain. One final answer. Given this and based on a law, so it's from general law coming back to a specific problem where P1, V1, V2 something and we find it. It's deductive reasoning. Suppose a scientist studies a large sample of different gases. He notes that for all the sample of gases that he has studied, the pressure of a given sample of gas is inversely proportional to the volume, given the mass and temperature of the gas is kept constant. In absence of any counter-example, he comes up with a generalization which is known as Boyle's law. What kind of reasoning is involved in this endeavor? Inductive reasoning. Why do you say so? Can somebody explain? Sample to population. Large bodies of sample collected and you don't even know, maybe one gas is left out. Doesn't matter till you find a counter evidence. This is a Boyle's law. A pupil may have noticed that bread starts to grow mold faster when kept at the room temperature than when in the fridge. She comes up with the hypothesis that with increase of temperature, the rate of growth of mold on bread increases. What line of reasoning has she adopted? Again, I am bringing in lots of projects we do in science. Our children come up with this. If you are doing IBL also, this is what you do. Hypothesis. The children coming up with hypothesis. What is that? Coming up with hypothesis. What kind of reasoning is involved?
Because there will be other ways also.
Coming up with hypothesis. What do you think? Do you all agree? No. No. Who is saying no? What do you say?
Interpretation.
Deductive.
Why deductive? It's a hypothesis. It's still coming up with a hypothesis. Hypothesis is not true. Need not be true. I have to prove, test the test. After this child is coming up with hypothesis, he is going to do the experiment to test the hypothesis.
It is abductive.
No, see, we are behaving like children. If I say inductive, if I say no, it's not good, don't think that now. No, you said inductive and now you are telling abductive.
सबसे first thing you said was abductive.
तुमने inductive बोला ना, अब change मत करना.
Change. I'm saying inductive, they are saying abductive.
Okay. Inductive Neha change मत करना, be confident.
Yes,
and
inductive.
Anybody else? It is inductive. It has to be inductive because you see it many times. Mold is growing many times. You know, one time the child sees and again keeps on changing temperatures and sees and finally coming up with hypothesis inductive. तुमने inductive बोला था?
नहीं, अब तक तो मैंने inductive बोला ही नहीं. Because
how do you establish that now?
Because I heard her say induction, but I kept a straight face. Yeah.
No, but that's your eyewitness account.
That's true.
Eyewitness account is different.
Actually, she didn't say. I said that. I didn't
Okay.
I can't even make a difference between Okay. Yes, it is inductive. Coming up with hypothesis in science is inductive because you have seen a sample, large body of sample, maybe not so large. That's why you have to test it.
Can
But
we
then
just
why?
contest
Yeah,
it?
sure.
Let's try to debate that a bit.
Yeah.
You can always look at it as I draw the hypothesis, and in the want of any other evidence, I take this as the theory which I live with.
I didn't get you. When you are hypothesizing something, then you want to live with it without testing it. That's what you're saying.
No, for the want of any further evidence to show something else, I'm just living with this hypothesis.
Means right now you have taken, without testing also, we have taken this hypothesis as your conclusion.
No, I mean what he is trying to say is that there are no other,
Better.
probably verifiable better options. So it's like choosing.
Yeah, so that is why we said
That's why we look at it as
You
abductive.
said, so you want to take a different mode of reasoning to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Suppose this is your conclusion in the absence of a better explanation. What,
that I
would,
thought
what is
was
the
more.
mode of reasoning?
I thought that fell in more into abductive reasoning.
Abductive reasoning, I feel, what I have understood is you see something surprising. You see something puzzling. You have to solve that puzzle. The first thing which comes to your mind is, this calls for an explanation. I need to interpret this by what I know about what the theories are available. Then you do abduction. In this case, it is, I think, a correlation between two variables about the rate of growth of mold and the temperature. So since it's a correlation thing, I think it's inductive reasoning. But
Where is the extrication from the population to this particular case? Or where from
Sorry.
it is?
The
You
population.
said one of the things about inductive reasoning is when you're translating something from population.
Sample to population.
Yeah.
So this is what we are doing. One bread mold, then many bread molds, coming up with a population that all bread molds are like this. So that's sample to population. So that's why I'm saying it's inductive. Abductive is explaining something, and there are many possible explanations. I choose one as the best possible explanation. And we will do more of this. These take little time. It does take a lot of time.
Why I thought it could be attractive because if this girl is saying that okay, the two bread mold pieces compared, one at room temperature, one kept in fridge. If you see, we get two bread pieces. One is kept outside. One is kept in the fridge. You take it out. Mold will be growing much sooner on that bread piece, which has been taken out from the fridge and kept. So this one, which is lying in room temperature, may not have had that mold.
Okay.
So in the absence of this is true for me.
I think what Minambika is saying is it's a kind of a surprising thing. I really agree to that. That will definitely be abductive reasoning. Suppose I keep a bread at the room temperature and I keep a bread at the fridge. In the fridge, I take the bread from the fridge out and I now compare the two. The bread which I took out from the fridge now grows mold faster than the one which is already lying outside. Then it has to be abductive. That why did it happen? Because now I'm going to actually looking for explanations. It may not happen, so that way it is abductive. In fact, that's a good thing that there are a lot of overlaps between the modes of reasoning. You cannot be like definite. अब कुछ और हम सोच ही नहीं सकते. That cannot happen. Yes.
I'll start on a lighter note.
Yeah.
But there's a confusion after that. Probably I said it very softly. That's why you must have misunderstood. But the thing is, I'm still in doubt that initially it starts as the hypothesis starts as an inductive. You do some, you carry on a whatever experiment and the research dissertation, whatever you want to call it, and then you conclude, but still it remains inductive.
It remains probable. Inductive
Because you still don't know what must happen.
No. So the mode of reasoning is inductive and the conclusion is still probable. The moment I find like what Minambika is saying, I find another evidence which is a counter evidence, I will have to change that statement, that proposition. So that is one basic thing about inductive reasoning also.
Is the hypothesis that Rashmikan is talking about, is that a correlational hypothesis or is that a causal or
This one, this is a correlational hypothesis.
He's talking about correlational?
Yeah, correlation hypothesis.
Okay. In which case the alternative hypothesis etc. will not come in.
Yeah.
The only question is there sufficient evidence to believe it? Yeah.
Yes. So if you have a counter evidence, yes, you have to change that. So coming to the next, if you don't have any other question, yes, Neha.
Just want to give Minambika a small explanation. It will be like if you are considering abductive reasoning, then you have to find other reasons of rate of increasing
that
the
is
rate
what
of
we found.
So it's not only temperature, it will be other
other
reasons as
factors.
well.
Plus, if you you keep your bread in the fridge and you keep it outside, the bread will come to normal temperature just within a small fraction of time. It won't take long. So I don't think
the
it
bread
matters
at room
so
temperature. We are
much.
comparing the bread at room temperature and the bread which has just got out of the fridge. We have kept out of the fridge. So this has already it's at a higher temperature.
So Neha, most probably now it's the sudden difference of temperature and the moisture. There are other factors. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Sudden difference of temperature, which is the cause. It could be what you're saying that more this will come. Variables will come in. More variables will come in. It may not be only temperature. Could be moisture or something else. Okay, so that is abductive in that case. Next, a pupil may have what kind of argument is used in the following set of propositions? A surprising event E is observed. If H is true, E is likely to happen. H is something else, like explanation maybe. Therefore, it is reasonable to conclude that H is true. What do you think happened? We have a surprising event. H is some kind of an interpretation or explanation for E. Yes, what is it? Abductive. Abductive reasoning. Go to the next one. What kind of argument is used in the following set of propositions? When it rains, the roads are wet. It rained, therefore the roads are wet. This is deductive. Next one. What kind of reasoning is involved in coming up with a conjecture? You did this yesterday with Jayashree. Coming up with a conjecture is similar to coming up with a hypothesis. So what kind of reasoning? Inductive. What kind of reasoning is involved when conjectures are proved in mathematical inquiry? Deductive. No other possibility, deductive. What kind of reasoning is involved in the following? All metals are conductors of electricity. X is a good conductor of electricity. Y is a good, not good conductor of electricity. Therefore, both X and Y are metals. Not good conductor. Not good conductor is not a conductor. It's a conductor, but not a good candidate as a conductor. So, what kind of reasoning is involved here? Means to come back to that conclusion, therefore deductive. Because general to specific. So this exercise was like a little kiddish but important for you because there were too many terms and too many modes of reasoning. It's not kiddish, adultish, so it's okay.
It's examination-ish.
Examination-ish. I am sorry for that. It is like a kind of a back of the chapter assessment kind of thing, but it's just to give you a feel of the relevance also, because we are always using this
But
in
now we
science.
realize that even examination is important.
There is a wrong reasoning here.
Sorry, yes?
There is not
What
deductive.
logic you use?
Which one?
I mean, X is a good conductor of electricity.
Okay, Jeevan has some points. Let's listen to him.
X is a good conductor doesn't mean it is a metal, it can be anything else.
No, but first premises is true. We are assuming is to be true. All metals are good.
No, but you are still
Carbon is a
following.
good conductor.
All
You are assuming
Carbon is
the.
All metals are. We are following the illegal one.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a fallacy.
So even that is a good one. But I did not realize until you mentioned that. So is that illegal, invalid, deductive logic? Yes. So this is invalid. Jeevan, can you explain once again why it is invalid?
When you are saying all metals are conductors of electricity, X is a
I
good.
did not say all metals are conductor of electricity.
X is a metal. If X is a metal, then therefore it has to be a good conductor.
Okay.
Or whatever. Forget about a good word.
Okay.
It's a conductor of electricity. Now here we are saying the opposite. X is a conductor of electricity. That doesn't mean it has to be a metal. It can be anything else.
It can be something
Yeah,
else
it
which
can
is
be
also a
something-
good conductor
a
of
good
electricity. That's true.
Basically,
But,
conductors of electricity involved, probably within that universe there are metals, there are other subjects, whatever.
Yes,
there
but
may be
we're
other
not going
elements.
there. If we take the first premise is true, if we take
all
the
conductors of electricity are
metals, then it should have been true.
It should have been.
Right. So the sentence should have been all conductors of electricity are metals. Then it should have been right. Yes, Tara?
All and only conductors. All and only metals are conductors.
Unless you say all and only metals are conductors of electricity, or you say the conductors of electricity are metals. So that should be the first premise. Then it's valid. All and only.
metals.
Yeah, all metals and only metals. Then it is. Yes, right. Great. So we can revise that. Ninth is what modes of reasoning are involved in professional practices of forensic scientists, archaeologists and anthropologists? Mainly, yes?
Mainly inductive.
Mainly abductive and inductive, I think. Abductive a lot because it's like the murder investigation, and inductive also, yes. And the last one, just read the last one, it's too long, and just tell the modes of reasoning, and we have to stop in 5 minutes. Who is the first person to answer? Shalini, be confident, loudly. Speculative deductive, the only one which we have not done so far. Speculative deductive, because here, why is it speculative deductive?
Because here theory is being defended.
Yeah, so theory is being established and defended. So something that is a bigger way, we have to learn it separately. But otherwise, these three modes of reasoning are a little comfortable. Now, 4 minutes
Seems like
left.
astrology.
I
Sorry?
have to add.
This one last one seems like astrology.
I have to add that when people say that in X it is speculative deductive reasoning, it's
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
a cloud. I think that answer can be given with some degree of confidence only after 3 or 4 days of having worked through some hard cases of speculative deductive reasoning. Otherwise, it's like students saying that the axis of the earth is tilted. They
Yeah.
you know the words, but not really what it means.
Right now, it's just knowing the words because
words, yeah. Familiarity with the-
sometimes you have to get familiar to sample to population inductive.
Yeah.
Populations are, then you get slowly you get into the deeper thing of it. So right now, since we have 3 more minutes, I ask you instead of telling that where do you find relevance, if you find at all any relevance in the school education or any kind of education, where do you find that modes of inquiry and understanding the modes of reasoning in each domain of inquiry? Is it useful somewhere, especially if you are teaching somewhere? Maybe Anuradha, you can share. Where do you find the relevance? Do you see the relevance of these things?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you, I think the relevance comes in if we work backwards in terms of a lesson. If we're just looking at a lab or doing the initial bit of how do they even get into a lab, and look at what is there, so observation, and from that what they deduce and what kind of observation comes in. It works every classroom and everywhere it can look into for any age group, and how can students come up with their reasoning from observation or any other thing, even drawing an hypothesis and relating it to their classwork,
So
to
the
the
different
theory that
modes
they
of
are
reasoning is
looking at.
actually involved,
Yes.
and every time is very different mode. We are continuously switching from one mode to the other.
Yes, and if not only in say science, it can be related the same thing to an history class, and I don't know how it could go differently in a math class.
Economics and statistics,
Yes.
I'm sure Akanksha will have plenty of examples to share. And anybody else?
Yeah, I just like to, for the purpose of debate, offer a contrary opinion. Frankly, I did not understand this till today, and I've not really missed this till today.
Okay.
Right? So I'm asking myself this question as to whether knowing the distinction of inductive, deductive, abductive, speculative, deductive, all of this used to constitute broadly what we call reasoning. And that's it, and that's how I've lived life so far. And have I really missed it is what I'm asking. The fact that I get into it in that level of detail, is that going to add value? I've not yet got an answer, but I'm just raising this as a question.
Good that you raise that question to yourself, and we can talk about it. And I don't think so we will get an instant value also. We have to find out where we actually will find value. But that's a very important question to ask. It's a very important question to
I
ask.
don't know whether in real life, I don't know. But at least as far as higher education in statistics is concerned, it's very much important that you understand, these things, and you understand the difference between invalid reasoning and valid reasoning. Because most of the people, even though they feel that they are reasoned, well thinking, they fail to, that going from smoke to fire, that thing people normally do. And I have found it very hard to convince my students that this is not true. At least as far as statistics and mathematics theorems are concerned, it's really necessary that you understand when going from sample to population is valid and when going from sample to population is invalid.
So
I
it
don't know
also
about
depends
in
on the
general.
professional
Yeah.
choices, and I think statistics is very important. Yes,
more
Mohan.
understand
Address Vaidish's question. The labeling of different kinds of reasoning as subduction versus speculation, speculative deduction versus induction is not really important. But once the labels are assigned, and you know the structure of these different kinds of reasoning, and the kinds of things that you have to pay attention to in these different types, and making sure that you do pay attention to them, that part is important. The labeling is not. So for example, an important characteristic of both abduction and speculative deduction is looking for alternatives. That's the important part. So when you make a conclusion, the first thing that you do is, are there alternative explanations? And when you make an abductive or speculative deductive argument, without that, it's an unrigorous. So if you actually look at research papers, many of them are badly formulated because they are not exhibiting the appropriate rigor. And you'll see that all the time. That part is that rigor is important.
Right.
And the labeling is only a kind of placeholder for that rigor.
Or also it helps having a common language so that
Yeah.
when you are confused,
Yeah.
somebody is going to help you through that. Otherwise you have to develop a whole language and whole set of examples and then again refer to that.
One thing I wanted to say, that I always felt that this creativity was a different thing. But in my studies of poets, I've discovered that people like Robert Frost and T.S. Eliot were intensely logical. And even Beethoven's composition was so logical that he could, even after he turned deaf, he could follow the sequence because of using logic. And I think that this is, in a way, kind of stimulating our logical minds. And then it actually enhances creativity. So it will also have an impact in creative. Because Arthur Conan Doyle is such a creative writer, and we see that how much of logic he has used in the construction of his creative plots.
So we have to end here because time is up, but I think this discussion I would really like to personally know from the teachers who are actually going into the classrooms whether you found any relevance or not, because it's important for us to know, to get the relevance. Thank you so much.